Can everybody see my screen? Yeah, you all good? Rob?
Yes.
Yeah. Finian?
Yeah, good.
Good. Right, cool. So I'll assume that some of you already know a bit about it, and I'll talk mainly about the recent changes, so it won't be incredibly long. But at the end, anyone who has a question that I haven't covered, happy to go in depth over that. The more we do in depth as a group between each other, the more we'll all learn each other's styles and questions. So you should all be aware that there's a vehicle sales admin role center. It's always better if you've got a specific user for the vehicle sales role center. Who's that? Alan? So it's always better if you do use a specific user for the vehicle sales role center because of things like automating the location codes and various features like that, list filters and that kind of thing. But you can, of course, share a user with the service department, but you just need to understand that you'll need to manually fill out location codes and maybe set some filters when you're using your vehicle sales system. So the changes almost every no, that's the wrong thing to say. A large portion of the changes we made you won't even see. It's all to do with how the background posting is done, and there's some additional setup which none of you need to worry about because I've done it for you in all of your systems, and it would be part of standard setup for new systems. But if you have a specific question about how it's handled, we'll go into that, but I'm not going to go into the technical side of how things are being handled in the background in this, unless I'm specifically asked. We'll worry about what you'll actually use on a daily basis. So the tiles have remained the same for now. We've got vehicle sales orders, so the changes are primarily on the order themselves. So we've removed the word beta from the top because that's been there for a year now or so. Just letting someone else in. I will cover over a few things actually while I'm here that you may or may not know about that have always been there. So in the first instance, in the fact box is all of the vehicle details you might need. They're hidden in the fact box intentionally because you don't need to see them on the order form all the time, but if you need to know the first registration date or the horsepower of the vehicle or the engine code, if you've got a customer specifically asking for that information, then it's easily obtainable in the fact box. One of the recent additions is this tile here. So we have unpaid posted sales invoices. So this is an easy way to see from the order form if any of the invoices that make up this order have not been paid for. So there were 5 posted for this vehicle, and only 2 have been paid for. And then, of course, customer details, which is the same on every fact box. So starting with the general section at the top, this hasn't changed apart from one field, source of payment for add-ons. So we'll get to that. So deal type, reg number, that gives you that. That should automatically populate the vehicle item number as long as you've purchased the vehicle item properly. Mileage is intentionally left blank because vehicle sales mileages tend to change daily with test drives and such like. But if you fill that out there, that's the information that goes across to the invoices when they're created, and you can see the previous mileage. If it's been in the workshop, there will be a mileage there, so you could just copy that over if you don't want to go out and get the actual mileage off the vehicle. So we've got a source of payment add-ons action at the top here, so whether it's the customer or the finance company. Hopefully that'll become obvious later on when we do the financials for this. Then we've got the customer who's buying the vehicle. So that hasn't changed at all. That's the same as it's always been. Customer details sync to the customer card like they do on the job sheet, and marketing channel, etc. if you want to use that. We added comments. It's exactly the same feature that you get on the job sheet. So everyone familiar with that. I know Finian doesn't use that side of the software, so you might not, but the comments section is literally pick a code, add a comment, tells you when you created it. If you've got this location code filter, you can hide that, you don't need it. And if you want to create new types of comments, then you just hit add new here, and like that, give it a comment code, a description, and so on and so forth. And you can set here on the right hand side whether it should be printed at the top or bottom of the document, if this print on document is on, whether it should be printed at the top or bottom of the document, and then which order. So if you, in this case, there's 2 that print at the top and they're both sequence 2. But so if you had this VAT disclaimer on the invoice and the finance deal on the invoice, then the VAT disclaimer would be first, followed by the finance deal. Yeah. So that's how that works. Then financials. So we've changed the financial screen around a little bit. Hopefully it just makes it easier for people to read. But in this example, we've got a car that we purchased for 8,000. It stands us in at 8,000 because there's been no workshop work on it, but you all understand how that works, the standing value. For the benefit that anyone that doesn't, if you click on the standing value, it will open the costs. So you will have on a lot of systems, you'll have the purchase cost. In this example, 8 grand. This is the purchase for the vehicle, and then underneath that, you would have a list of everything it's had done in the workshop. You know, MOT, 2 tires, service, etc., and the prices. So that's a quick way for you to explain to the customer, oh, we've done all this work. It's had a couple of wishbones, it's had a tire, etc., etc. And then this 8,000 here would reflect, you know, 8,750 or something. VAT qualified slider. That is obviously for VAT qualified vehicles. It's either on or off. You can't edit it here so that you don't make a mistake. It is from the item card, so from this item. The idea is that when you purchase the item, you purchase it as VAT qualifying or not, and this is just a visual, oh, this is a VAT qualifying vehicle, or obviously if it's not VAT qualifying, it's VAT margin. So we're selling this for £15,000. We won't bother with any discounts. I don't know anyone who actually uses those fields. And then we've got some new fields. So under other amounts, we've got the total add-ons, including VAT, due by the customer, and the total add-ons, including VAT, due by the finance company. Because you might have, customer might be having, I don't know, tinted windows, and the finance company won't pay for that. For argument's sake, you don't want that on the invoice that you will send to the financing company. Part exchange slider has moved to under other amounts, but it functions the same way it always has. So if it involves a part exchange, you turn that on, and that gives you the part exchange section down here, which remains as it always has been. Simply key in the reg number, and the system creates the item for you. So if has anyone got a reg? Because this system's full of my regs. I can't think of any more. Someone shout one out for me.
Bravo Kilo 56.
Yeah.
Charlie Yankee Alpha.
So key in the reg, it creates the vehicle in the vehicle list and creates an item and populates it for you. So the only thing you need to do now is purchase this. So hopefully everyone already knows how that works. So because we've got a part exchange, that will have also added the part exchange, including VAT value here. So we'll give him £1,000 for that. So the total section now is more concise and changed. So if we run down this, we got the sales price, including VAT and deposit. So that's obviously the total here. It's copied across to there. This currently has no add-ons. So the deal amount's going to be for 14 because it's 15 less the part exchange. We're going to take a £99 deposit. And therefore, as you can see, it was out of balance because we're going to just finance the rest. The customer's going to pay, we're going to give him £1,000 for his part exchange. He's going to pay £99 holding deposit, and we'll finance everything else. So the customer will pay nothing more. Yeah, makes sense. So part exchange we've done. Reservation, that's not changed. That works the same as it's done before. There's in the in the setup, you denote how many days. So if I reserve this vehicle because they've paid the deposit, then it will have added 14 days or whatever you've chosen, and it simply says whom's marked it as. It's quite a simple feature, just marks it as who's slid the button and when that expires. So if you've got multiple sales agents, you can keep a tab on that. Add-ons, that's where you would add on things like warranty, delivery charges, tinted windows, bull bars, etc., etc. They're always sold as an item. So if I find, whoops, lots of Priuses, we'll add this air filter. Look, there we go. So we'll have an air filter for 25 quid. And again, we always talk including VAT because that's how you communicate with your customers, which is different, obviously, to the sales invoices on the service side, which is you key in the less VAT prices and it adds that on. But slightly different procedure for vehicle sales. Now, this is add-ons. This is where this comes in at the top. So on this deal, the customer is paying for add-ons. If they were going to be financed, then we would change that to finance company. So that has changed. Adding that add-on has changed the finance deal. So we keyed this in that the finance is going to do that, and then the customer said, "Oh, I'll have that air filter." So it's added 25 quid for the customer to pay. So he's paid 99 holding deposit. We're going to knock £1,000 off his part exchange, 13,901 on finance, and then he's going to have a balance because he's asked for some extras, which the finance company won't pay for. Yeah. Totals section of the add-ons is works out the VAT for you. So obviously we said we'll sell him that for 25 quid, but that actually means 2083 plus the VAT because that is standard VATable. It would be outside of the margin scheme as being add-ons. So that's how that works. That's the only thing that's changed with add-ons is choosing whether the finance company or the customer is paying for them. Invoicing. So this is where if it is a finance deal, then we'll have to denote the finance company here. Same as on a sales invoice for the service department, you would choose who the customer is, and if it's going to say payment assist in this, so who have we got at the top? Hewitt Card at the top. So say yes is going to pay the bill, but it would be Close Finance or Motonovo or whatever. And then you might choose to use the shipping option. So if you have a scenario where say Garage Hive is buying a vehicle from Close Finance and they need it delivered to Adam's address in Worthing, which it could well happen, if as an example, buying a company car or whatever, right? So in that case, we can print the ship to address like that and denote the custom address or alternative shipping address of what custom address in there. Just literally key it in, and that will then show on the invoice that goes to the finance company. Here's the person buying the vehicle. Here's the person paying the bill, and this is where we want you to ship it to, which is information the finance company sometimes ask for. Completely optional. You just choose with the slider whether you want that on or off. Okay. So I will just delete they're all posted. That's fine. We can, it might not. So this is the problem with the development system. I'm going to hit this button now and it'll either work or it won't. So assuming we're now happy and we've got all of the finances correct, we will create the sales invoice to complete the deal. Actually, I will show you all. I'll create the sales invoice. So first of all, the scenario would be customers like, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want this vehicle. I'm happy with everything. So create the sales invoice. And now we are asked, do we want to create the deposit invoice to take the £99 holding deposit, or do we just want to do everything and get it over and done with? So in this case, I want a holding deposit because he's not coming to pick it up till next week. So I'll click OK. That warning's because we've already worked on this before. So in the fact box now, we can see we have one sales invoice. But please ignore these tiles. In your in normal operation, everything would be zero because it's you'd only sell this item once, so it would all be virginalized. So if we open that sales invoice, we have a vehicle sales invoice type. So this is a deposit invoice. This is a new field, new feature. Comments would have been copied over if you'd written them on the order form. And in the lines, we post to a nominal for vehicle sales deposits, but we're basically just taking, because this is a VAT qualifying vehicle, we're going to take 82.50 plus the VAT, 99 quid, which means we can give the customer an invoice that has the customer's details on it and shows that he's paying a deposit for the vehicle that he is buying, and that is £99. And there is VAT on this because this vehicle that we're selling is a VAT qualifying vehicle. If it was a margin vehicle, there'd be no VAT displayed. Okay, but he pays the £99 and he's got a VAT invoice he can then go and put on his system. Then, assuming I've posted that, that would of course drop to zero, and we'd have a paid posted. Yeah, we'd have zero unpaid posted and a paid posted. Then he'd come to collect the vehicle. So at that point, we'd raise the part exchange purchase because we'd be buying his £1,000 in at that point. So I clicked that create part exchange purchase button. That added one in this fact box tile here. So if I open that up, we've got a simple vehicle that we're purchasing from the preset vendor. Most of you should have retail part exchange as a vendor that would purchase it from. It will add the item that the system created when you keyed the reg number in on the order form and the value. And of course, if it was VAT margin, it would have worked that out for you. But because most retail part exchanges are VAT margin, sorry, not VAT qualifying. So that's simple. It's just raise the purchase order. All you need to do is check the figures and post it as normal. That's not changed for part exchanges. And then once we've done that, we'll create the sales invoice. This warning is there because we've already used this before because it's development, but you wouldn't have it. And we click yes. Now, what it's done is it's realized that it's already created the deposit invoice. So it's just raised everything else that it needs. So you didn't get that pop-up asking, do you want the deposit invoice or everything else? It knows what you need, and we've just done that. If you'd not done the deposit invoice and we're just going to do the whole deal in one go when the guy turned up, then it would ask you, and you would have selected the bottom option, which is all invoices, including deposit. So that's now raised us 4 invoices. Sorry, it raised 3. We already had deposit invoice. So what you'll notice is in your system, you have this vehicle sales invoice type. So that's the deposit invoice we had before. And then we have a finance invoice to go to the finance company for the 13,000, which for the 13,910. Then we have the customer invoice. If you remember on the order form, we had the air filter for 25 quid that he needs to pay, which will be the extra. And then there might be some questions around this, but we'll see. Then we have to have a finance balancing invoice, which is a system requirement to balance all the nominal codes because of how the vehicle sales is posted. So this invoice, you almost certainly would never print it or do anything with it. It's literally there to balance the books of the system after the deal is done. And that invoice should always be 0 because all it is doing is effectively a journal where it's moving the money from where we've put it to handle the deal, the deposit accounts and the such like, and the vehicle sales suspense, and it's moving it to where it needs to live in the end. So that bottom invoice, the balancing invoice, should always have a 0 value, and it's there to process the accounts. Right, so the finance invoice, if we open that up, on the finance invoice, we posting straight to nominal codes. There's no items here. So the item, the actual vehicle itself, will live on the customer ledger entries because it's natural that if you're in the future looking at you know, this vehicle or whatever, you're going to associate this vehicle with the customer, even though technically speaking you sold it to the finance company. So we put the actual item on the ledger entries for the customer. So we're effectively faking this invoice for the finance company, but that's why we've got the balancing invoice to move things around at the end. It's automatically added all the lines for you. There's nothing you should need to do. The value is correct. If we show what we would then send to the finance company, we get an invoice with the customer who's buying the car on the left, the finance company. In this example, it's the same address, but it would be different. Then the vehicle the finance company is purchasing, all of the information the finance company asked for, like the production year, the first reg date, the mileage would be on here if it wasn't blank on the order form, because they asked for the mileage. The net value of the deal, the VAT applied, because this is VAT margin, this is VAT qualifying, sorry, remember. If it was margin, of course, it wouldn't have a VAT on it. Then we're showing the finance company that we've taken a 99 deposit. We're going to give £1,000 as a customer payment, which is the part exchange, but the finance company don't really need to know that. And then the balance the finance company need to pay. We have obviously talked to a few finance companies in developing this, because the idea is what we were having to do a lot in the past was sort of edit or amend or change invoices to get finance companies to agree with them. So I spoke to a couple, we've agreed this, we've tested this, and we've had finance deals just approved now off the back of these invoices without any interference, which is of course beneficial to all of us involved. So that should work. The idea of the finance invoice is it provides the finance company with everything they need to settle you whatever you're asking for. So you would just post that to your finance company. So you'd post and email it to them. Yeah. Then let's go to the customer invoice. So the customer invoice has the physical item on that we're selling them, the vehicle, plus the add-on, the air filter for 25 quid. Then we take their part exchange off, the £1,000 part exchange. Then we take their 99 quid off for the deposit invoice that we raised before. And then we take the £13,000 off the invoice for the financed amount. And what that gives the customer, if you choose to give them this invoice, some of our customers asked for something to give their customer, is an invoice to the customer, no reference of the finance company, because it's not anything to, well, there is a reference, but it's not in the header because it's not part of that. We add a comment that there's a finance deal applied. So this invoice was partially paid by, imagine that says Close Finance. They paid £13,901 for invoice number blah, blah, blah. And then we say to the customer, you bought this vehicle for 15 grand, so on and so forth. You also bought an air filter for £25. Then we part exchanged your BMW for £1,000, which ultimately means you need to pay £25 on this invoice. So you would just take payment, 25 quid via whatever payment method, and post this invoice. All done. And then, of course, the balancing invoice, again, you don't need to worry about this. It just moves the money around on the nominal codes. So just post this off at the end of the deal. Now, a couple of tips. You can, in this example, let's just assume that we want to keep this real simple. So a lot of you might be thinking, bloody hell, 4 invoices, blah, blah, blah. Let's keep this real simple. I'll just go back a step. I key this out. This is what I want to happen. I'm going to say, I think in this scenario, you wouldn't bother taking the deposit. I'd probably just leave that blank and just take 124 off the customer at the end, because if you're keeping it real simple and just doing the deal in one time when the customer turns up, the deposit, if you imagine deposits for holding deposits, so it's taken advance. Whereas this, I know that with vehicle sales terminology, often the part exchange is called a deposit, especially for the finance, but it's not in real life. And also the amount due, some people would call, also part of the deposit, because they talk about it from the financing perspective. Anyway, let's just assume that we are going to take the £99 deposit, even though we're going to do the whole thing in one go on the day. So in that case, the financials stay the same. We'd key all that out, or we wouldn't. Then we'd hit create sales invoice. We'd choose to create all of the documents in one go. We'd choose that option for all. That would then give us these 4. We'd open that and we'd go take payment, and we'd key in here. No, we wouldn't, sorry. We'd do that. We'd go 3 dots, select more, choose them all, posting, batch post. That'll post all 4 invoices in one go. If I click that, I won't bore you with this, but you just click OK, right? And it will post all 4 invoices in one go. Then I would go to take payment, put the customer's name in, and just settle up. You know how you would go. You all know how this works. So I'd say take payment via card. I don't have it set up. On the next page, applies to documents, tick, 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 take the value, post, sorted. Or if you really wanted to, of course, you can open each individual invoice, go to take payment, say this was paid by that, etc., close, next invoice, this one was paid by that, so on and so forth. And then once you've filled out all the take payment screens, you can 3 dots, select more, posting, batch post. So there's options. You can do them one at a time, you can do them all in one go, whatever suits you best. At that point, I'm done without blowing all your minds and going much more technically. So I want you guys to ask questions and we can go over some specific scenarios if you want. Don't forget to unmute yourselves.
Reece, it's Graham. Just on, if you're wanting the invoice for the customers to show they've fully paid when you print it, presumably you have to do that first before you do the posting.
Yeah, so here we go. Yeah, so if we go customer invoice,
yeah,
take payment, they have £25 on this one, so they pay that by maybe they paid it by G-Link, 25, and then post it or print it. So you get the any additional, So if I, just to show that as well, how this works, it's one of the reasons why this took so long to get done, because it's quite complicated. If I do £2, £3, £5, £10, and another £5. Get a very dynamic, so deposit, finance, so on and so forth, and then the extra ones bring the balance down. So it all works like that. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No. I'm amazed. Is it just that?
I missed all that. Can you start again, please?
You can watch the video later. So, a lot of effort was put into this. The time it took was to actually try and to refine this process, much like we've done with the sales thing. So the order form is key with this vehicle sales module. All the information on the order form and the invoices is just something just to deal with at the end. And it really should be a case of one click, post all the invoices. Because the order form should have everything on it that you need. And if you didn't know, you can print the order form in advance or email the order form. That was one of the early concepts of it, was to agree what's actually going to get done. So a printed order form can be sent to the customer. This is the vehicle you're buying, this is the vehicle we're buying from you, these are all the financials, this is what's going to happen, we're going to finance a certain amount, la 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 la. Customer can approve all that so that there's no surprises, no changes on the day when the customer comes in, or not print. Or I know a lot of people don't print the order forms. That's fine, but there's an option too if you're negotiating with the customer remotely, just to make sure you're all clear on what's going on. So if we really don't have any more questions, but I'd love to go over some more. Yeah, go on.
Right. That bit where you had a part X and then it said about including VAT. Can you just go back to that bit? Sorry.
So if the you slide to say that there's a part exchange on this order.
Yeah.
That creates this jobber. I put in a reg like this for argument's sake, and if it's a VAT qualifying vehicle with part exchanging, then we just slide that on.
Right. So yeah. So that's if it's qualified. If it's margin, you just leave that slid across there.
Exactly. So it's off by default. So
Yeah.
because normally part exchanges are,
Yeah.
someone's old Golf, but if you are part exchanging something VAT qualifying, you just turn that on, and that's the same. So if you're in a purchase invoice, if you've bought something from BCA or whatever, and we are buying a vehicle, I was just going to put it in. Someone else give me a reg, please. Anyone?
GY09.
Sorry, say that again.
GY09.
Yeah.
KWG. K for kilo.
Right. So because we have the service type vehicle sales, the system knows that we're probably trying to buy a vehicle. So you get this extra option. So instead of create an item card, it's create an item card for the vehicle, reg this. So I click OK. That will open the item card because you might need to slide VAT qualified on.
Right.
But other than that, you don't need to do so. That what that's done now is created a number, a unique number. The number series in this system is messed up, so don't worry about it. It's filled out the description for you with the reg and the make and model, and everything for you. So all you need to do is click close, unless it's VAT qualifying, where you'd slide that on. A lot of these fields here are irrelevant now, so I don't know what we'll do with them. We'll probably get rid of them, but we'll leave them a little while and just make sure nothing's to do. But that makes that really simple too. So you just simply key the reg in of the vehicle you're going to buy. It changes the reg to the number because we sort that out. Key in the 5,500. This was margin. Of course, if I'd have slid the slider on, it would be VAT qualifying.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
With the margin card now, when you're doing the order form, does that put the margin line in then for the invoice, or do you still have to do that separately?
Yeah, let's just do another one. 1 second. So in this example, we had VAT because, as you see here, it's VAT qualifying. If we pick, hopefully one of these is. There we go. Right. So this is margin because it's not VAT qualifying. If I create sales invoice. So the system automatically adds the margin on. So 4,000 plus 2,000 profit, blah, 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 blah. And this invoice will have, so that's the customer buying the car. That's the car you're buying, 6 grand, plus an add-on for 250, another add-on for a tenner, and then £2,000 part exchange. So you do have VAT here, but that's one is VAT on the 0% line, which is the part exchange, because it's margin. Yeah, so that's 0. Yeah. And then there is VAT here at 20%, but that's 216, which is this and this, the two add-ons, which are VATable. So £43 worth of VAT, but the actual VAT on the 2 grand profit is not displayed.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just the same. Finian, any questions?
Loads, Reese.
Loads. Yeah. Well, if you want to drop me an email afterwards, if you want to do something, because I know yours is a bit different. So
yeah, no, this is fine. But my trailers and stuff are slightly different.
Yeah, slightly different.
Good. Yeah, these are good updates.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. So yeah, if anyone's got anything else, then let's have it. But if not, I'm glad we could get us in a room and have this done. Mark's thinking about it. Not sure.
Right, don't know. Looks good, to be fair.
Okay, good. So we'd like to stop working on vehicle sales for a little while because it melts all of our brains. but I am keen. Obviously, it's a module that was reasonably new, and we've done a lot of work on it. You know, it's important to all of us. It works very well, and not frustratingly, but I hope you guys can appreciate that it's a complicated thing to actually do well, and we always try and do it well. So please give us some feedback when you're using it, even if it's positive. Like, you know, I've just done a deal and it was great. You know, it's good to hear that there's a substantial amount of heartache gone on at this end to get things where they are. So if things are working well, that's great, because we can know to close them off and not do anything else with it. But please keep us in the loop. All right.
Yeah.
If that's it, no one else has got any questions, we'll call it a day and everyone can have a cup of coffee.
Thanks,
All right.
Rhys.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Cheers, Rhys.
Thanks.